All right. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? How is it going? I am Is There No One Else? And the video I'm bringing you today, we are going to go over this message from Brian Wheeler. This is the Update 29 Combat Preview. I'm going to talk a little bit about the channel. I'm going to talk a little about my channel. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the reveal that came out today and kind of talk about how all that stuff kind of comes together in the next couple weeks. So first things first, this channel. Tomorrow, the PTS is dropping, which means the patch notes are dropping. I will be doing a patch note review. I will be doing a full patch note video going over my thoughts on it. And then we'll start diving into gear, talking about sets as they pertain to PvP. So if you guys like that sort of thing, long story short, I like to test it out on the PTS. That way I figure out if this stuff is worth farming or not, and I save myself some time in the future. Instead of farming it and then testing it and finding out I don't like it, I get to do it this way and then see if I actually want to use it on builds, and I provide my information to you guys so that you can figure out if you want to farm it yourself. So yeah, we will be doing that starting tomorrow. PTS season is always a good season, so we'll see what happens with that. Also, I wanted to say this as far as the channel is concerned. Also, in the next couple days, I'm going to hit 10,000 subscribers, which is a pretty big deal. I've been doing YouTube for a while. 10,000 is a pretty big milestone for me. I think it's awesome. I think it's great that people enjoy the information that I try to provide or what I try to do. And so I want to give back a little bit more. So I want to say thank you to you guys for hitting the subscribe button, doing all the fun YouTube stuff to help me out. I will be streaming a few times in the next couple weeks, either the PTS or the AAP event. I'm not sure which yet. Kind of depends on performance. I've talked about this a little bit in the past. I would stream more often if performance is better. And because it's not right now, I don't want to try and set up a regular streaming schedule and just get frustrated with performance, and then none of us are having fun because I'm not finding good fights and the game's not working properly, and you have to hear me bitch. Nobody wants that. So yeah, that's why I'm not streaming. But typically with the AAP event, performance is a little bit better. So if that is actually the case again, I will try and stream a little bit of that. If not, we'll stream some PTS stuff and we'll go over that. Maybe tomorrow I'll stream the patch note review, and we can kind of talk and go over our thoughts on all that. So yeah, that's what's coming with the channel. Let's read the letter from Brian Wheeler. Welcome to Update 29 Combat Preview. The Combat team would like to share some new features and updates coming your way that we have been working on for quite some time. This isn't a roadmap for what's coming beyond Update 29. This is all coming to the PTS tomorrow, January 27th. Back when we first designed so the first things first is the champion system. Back when we first designed the champion system, the original purpose was to provide players with character advancement beyond level 50. We hit that goal in that the system gave your character more power in incremental stages as you continue to play. The system offered the means to augment your power in various specific roles and fill gaps in your build to help you tackle PvE content, battle against other players in PvP, and aid with crafting. Lastly, the system was originally built to utilize the technology we had at the time, which relied heavily on passive abilities to determine if your character should sprint faster, block more, if damage shields were more powerful, etc. Over the years, ESO's technology, combat, and content have all evolved. Due to this, we determined it was time to take a critical look at the current champion system design. Once your characters reach level 50, each time you gain a level, you earn champion point. You then spend the champion point on more magic regen. They're talking about the current system that you guys are experiencing now. Stamina regen, damage mitigation, or any other champion system star that suits your build or playstyle. This is the simplest form of vertical progression. Earn a point, get greater power, and quote-unquote tools for your playstyle toolbox. While the design is simple, it is also limiting. You spend points in very specific ways to increase what your character already does, whether that be support, damage, or tanking. Additionally, the system's options to augment those actions are few once you break it down to whether you're using magic or stamina. As such, while you're able to progress with the champion system, you're not getting as much in the way of choices as we'd like. So, speaking from experience, I agree with this. If you think about what your CP tree allocation is, the biggest difference is whether or not your stamina or magicka. Your blue tree changes based on that. Your red tree in PvP more or less stays the same. It can stay the same on a lot of classes. Your green tree depends a little bit on whether you're stamina or magicka and whether or not you're a more block-based build or you're a dodge roll-based build. So you put points either into block or dodge roll. Other than that, it more or less it's the same. So I feel like my Magicka classes have similar CP, my Stamina classes have similar CP across the board. And it doesn't matter whether it's a Stam DK, it doesn't matter, like there's very few changes in the CP tree for those classes. And so what they're saying here is there's not as much variety to augment your character's skills and abilities as they would like. And I think we can all agree with that. I think we can all agree that right now the CP system, it's kind of, you're kind of shoehorned into whether or not you're Magicka or Stamina. At that point, it just kind of decides for itself. So it's not really a tree so much as it is, okay, well, your Magicka do this, your Stamina do this, more or less. As the game progressed from update to update, the champion point cap also increased bit by bit. This allowed you to spend more champion points in various stars, which in turn made your characters more powerful. The term power is something that can be very broad in definition, so let's just use one of the many definitions when it relates to PvE content. In this case, we're defining power as being able to complete content faster with reduced pressure on resource management and in some cases minimal risk of death. This increase in power causes a very real gap in content completion ability for players who are at the champion point cap versus those who are not. This creates several issues ranging from social pressures of requiring a minimum CP to play with others to creating content which essentially ignores combat bonuses like higher health to create difficult encounters. These issues effectively nullify the whole point of the champion system. This makes a lot of sense. Speaking from experience, way back in the day when I started doing Maelstrom Arena for weapons, when it first came out, I had to build up to, I remember I started doing Maelstrom at around 300 CP because anything less I was struggling. I found that I needed to get to 300 CP, so when Maelstrom came out I had to wait a couple weeks and then I got to 300 CP, and the first time I did Maelstrom they didn't have save points. It took me about 8 to 8.5 hours to do because I didn't know the mechanics. My character, like Maelstrom was tough back then. If you're trying to play a 300 CP character back then with the gear that we had, Maelstrom was actually pretty tough. I just played it a couple weeks ago on PC because I wanted to get a weapon to do Vatishran's Hollows a little bit easier. I cruised. It was so easy, and I was literally wearing similar gear. I was wearing Briarheart and Hundings, and I remember back in the day, before I got my VO, I was wearing Night Mother's Gaze and Hundings. My original builds was like Night Mother's Gaze and Hundings Rage, and so I'm wearing Briarheart and Hundings on a character with Pale Order, and I'm flying through the dungeon because it's so easy. It's so easy now because I have 500 more champion points. And, like my healing, sustain, everything, it was just so easy. And so when they're talking about this, it makes a lot of sense why some of the dungeons now are a lot easier than they used to be. Like I remember a couple of years ago when we did dungeons, it was like, oh crap, we got new dungeons, new skins, these are going to be fun. Like dungeons were kind of exciting at one point because they were actually very challenging. And not all of them are this case right now. Like some of the hard mode ones are actually pretty difficult, but a lot of the new dungeons were actually pretty easy because, yeah, they probably encountered this situation where they're like, okay, well, we don't want to just have 8-10 CP players only able to finish the content. We want to expand the content to more players playing. We're pulling in new players every single year. We want to have those players finish end-game content too. Why should they not be able to have this just because they're 200 CP less? Why should they have to wait 2 months to do a dungeon? So I get that point of view of this, and it doesn't create inclusion. And so I know people are going to say, it's only 200 CP, yada, 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 what's the big deal? The thing is there's such a power creep. There really is a big difference between 500 CP and 800 CP. There's a huge difference. And if you're a good player, you can overcome it. And if you're a newer player, you need the 300 CP, and there's nothing wrong with that. You haven't been playing as long. This sort of stuff makes sense. And so what they're talking about is just the power creep of CP has been very drastic, way more than what they wanted, and it's created this situation, which I can get behind. I think that makes a lot of sense. So we'll end our tangent there. As mentioned earlier, the current champion system relies on passive abilities, and this was largely due to the technology that was available at the time. On the back end, the game will perform a check on most passive abilities each time you perform an action, whether that be drinking a potion, dodge rolling, or using an ability on your hotbar. The game must also constantly check passive abilities for the right thing at the right time. For example, a champion ability such as Bastion requires the game to check if a damage shield is cast on every action your character does. Multiply that by 30 to 40 passives you have on your character, and the result is a system that puts unnecessary stress on the server. I've talked about this. When they did the AoE test back in August, I talked about the champion tree and all these different passives that come into play. I talked about a lot of things, but I talked about proc sets, I talked about passives, and I talked about all these, AoE heals that impact in an area in PvP, and that's part of the reason why they restricted group size in PvP and they restricted group healing on some abilities, and it has made a noticeable improvement in performance, in my opinion. Like the reduced heals only going to group members, in my opinion, it hasn't solved everything, guys. It's not like a one fix, okay, performance is great now, but performance now is better than it was 2 months ago. 2-3 months ago I wasn't playing because it just didn't work. Now it works half the time. So I'll hop on and I'll see if the game's working. If the game's working, I play. If it doesn't, I hop off. So it did help. And so when you look at this, think about how many passives your character has. You have 30 to 40 passives. You drink a potion. Well, the game needs to go, okay, what is that? Does that impact damage shield? Does that impact this passive? Does that impact this passive? And it has to run through checks on all 30 to 40 of those passives per character, per ability cast. So if you dodge roll, if you use surprise attack, if you pop a potion, if you block, all these sorts of things, you get 30 to 40 checks per ability cast. And so when you're in these fights, 20v20 group battles, and everybody has these checks per ability cast, it's no wonder performance is so bad. It's no wonder, because we didn't have these sort of checks 3, 4, 5 years ago because there weren't many people running around with 800 CP. Not many people had this many passives equipped, and so performance wasn't as bad for that reason. Now, I think it's more than just this. I think it's more than just CP. I think there's a few other things coming to play, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But this is a big change, just acknowledging that these checks are a problem, and they're making an adjustment for performance in mind with adjusting this, which is huge in my opinion. Given this context and the problems we're looking to solve, there are several aspects of champions points that we need to improve. First, we want a system that encourages horizontal progression, rewards that prioritize gameplay variety, character power by introducing new and unique tools for you to incorporate in your builds over vertical progression. So basically what they're trying to say is the more CP you get, you can branch your character out and get cool things without having different power, but not just stronger, if that makes sense. Over vertical progression, rewards that prioritize increased, which is what we currently have. Rewards that prioritize increased character power by improving existing character tools or replacing them with objectively better options to provide a better play experience for players of all levels. I think this is great. We also want a system that reduces calculations per combat action to help overall game performance in large-scale combat situations. I think we all want that. And finally, we want a system that can expand and evolve with ESO for years to come and provides a wider variety of options for your characters. With all those aspects and more in mind, we are introducing a revamped champion system with Update 29. Now, I will provide a link in the description to the video where they go through this stuff. It was the ESO live stuff today. They had Brian Wheeler on, and he talked about this as well as a bunch of other things. It's definitely worth checking out. But yeah, they go into it in more detail. If you guys have, this is going to just lead to more questions, and I don't have the answers for you yet. I will in PTS. So yeah. The new champion system utilizes several types of stars, the locations within the champion system UI that you spend your points in, and how you use them. This includes how stars apply stats to your character, how many champion points are necessary to unlock those stats per star. Some stars require you to spend a set number of points to get a set amount of stats, while others have stages to them. Simple example is a star that has 50 total points that grants stamina every 10 points, invested up to 50 points. So they talked about how there's jump points in the current champion system. This is now just a flat value, which makes things a lot easier. Some stars also require you to slot them into a new UI element called the champion bar. Now, I know this is confusing, guys. I know it is. Just acknowledge that it's confusing, and in the next 3 to 4 weeks, it'll become less and less confusing. Because some of it's confusing for me, okay? So we're all more or less on the same foot. The champion bar has 12 total slots, 4 per constellation, and allows you to drag and drop, aka slotting. So what this is specific stars into it to activate their bonuses. The functionality is very similar to your ability bar. Stars which can be slotted in the champion bar are bonuses that can offer power or augment a playstyle you enjoy. The capability to control which stars you slot at any given time is the main aspect that governs vertical progression. Other stars which grant stats by unlocking the thresholds and don't need to be slotted will further increase your power vertically. The blend of these two types of stars allows the updated champion system to offer both power and choice while promoting greater consideration of and consequences for your choices. So I'm going to keep reading this next paragraph, and then I'm going to go through my thoughts on it. Because there's an element of choice when determining which stars to slot versus passive stars that grant stats on their own, there's also a reduction in how many passives are calculated per combat action. As noted above, with 12 slotted passives on the champion bar, the calculations required for combat, especially in high-density situations, is greatly reduced. So the current champion tree, we can have 30 to 40 passives going off all the time. In the new champion tree, you have to build points into the champion tree, and then you have to choose which passives you want to slot. So you could potentially have more than 12 passives, but you can only have 12 passives active. You have to put them into your bar. So it's just like having a skill tree. So if you want a specific passive, let's talk about Unchained. Unchained is a very popular passive. I don't know if it still exists in the new champion tree, but if you want Unchained, hypothetically, you have to put it into your 12 point champion bar. If it's not there, it doesn't exist on your character. And so what this does is it now runs checks on 12 passives instead of the 40 that it was before, greatly reducing the strain on the server per person. So essentially, the amount of checks per person in this next patch per character with CP will be the same as 4 now. Roughly 4 characters in the next patch will be the same as 1 character now. So a 20v20 will be like a 5v5 as far as the checks are concerned on the system, which is huge. That it is a huge change, which should help drastically. Like I said, I thought that the healing changes were quite nice. And this should be a bigger, I would think on paper, this looks like a bigger adjustment. We'll see what happens. We'll see if anything else comes into play that makes it worse. But this is a pretty big change. I mean, not only stylistically is it better, because it allows you to make your character the way you want and augment skills in a way that fits your specific build, it also should improve performance. Now, how much, we don't know. We don't know that. We'll find out later, but these are all exciting things. Additionally, most stars that grant stats without conditions function similar to item set bonuses. These stats are simply added to your character and do not require an ability to drive their function. By doing this, we're able to put less strain on the server by having these passive functions differently than the current champion bonuses that are driven by abilities and requirements. Keep in mind, this new system isn't a magic bullet to fix performance, which is what we're just talking about. But these changes aid in keeping these champion abilities performant while also giving compelling options for what to slot. So yeah, very, very exciting changes right here. And yes, guys, I know it's confusing, but just think of it this way. You have to choose which passives in your CP tree you want. So, and then you have to put them into a spot. So just like when you have skills in your skill bar for your characters, and you want surprise attack, and you want poison injection, and you want ambush, whatever, you have to put those on your character. If they're not in your bars, they don't exist. Your surprise attack doesn't help you if it's not on your bar and it's just unlocked on your, in the tree. So that's essentially what they're talking about here, if that makes sense. The last major aspect of the champion system that we wanted to adjust was room for growth and variety. As ESO continues to expand year after year with new content and systems, we want the champion system to evolve with it. The new slotted passives and champion bar will greatly support this and allows us to create and add new unique stars that can interact with new world systems. Another method for expanding on this system is our clustering UI. Most of the champion constellations have a top layer of stars, but with the launch of the updated champion system, there is one constellation that has a few clusters. These clusters are essentially sub-constellations of all new stars. The second layer gives us another canvas on which to add more stars or simply group stars together that suit a common purpose. Each major constellation has several sub-layers we can use, and this gives us a great deal of expandability in the future, which is awesome. That's awesome that you can have more stuff that you can add on to that doesn't bog down performance. With the new methods of spending champion points, the new champion bar, the clustering layers, we hope this shows how the updated champion system builds upon the current system and overall improves it. We look forward to reading all your feedback about this great new way to augment your characters. Don't forget, you can try it on the PTS starting tomorrow. Tomorrow, guys. Exciting stuff. Then, armor updates. We're also making some updates to armor passes in ESO. Historically, armor in Elder Scrolls games provides defenses against a variety of damage and bonuses to augment your power. Those bonuses range from improving your damage output, your healing capabilities, or simply allowing you to move faster. Ultimately, armor creates another set of choices for how you want to build your character. Armor is also combined with the 3 skill lines for each type, granting further bonuses themed around the armor type and the general playstyles typically associated with each. In almost every situation, wearing armor provides a positive change. You're gaining power in one form or another. The only real trade-off of damage versus power is how much damage you can absorb. Traditionally, in Elder Scrolls games, armor has more effects than simply damage absorption or ability augmenting. There are very real trade-offs for your armor choice. ESO doesn't currently have those trade-offs. It is often more about damage than defense. So if you guys have played older ESO games or Elder Scrolls games, you know that heavy armor, you were slower, you were clunkier, your stamina ran out quicker. These sorts of things came into play because you're wearing heavy armor. It's heavy armor, it's not light armor. And so they're trying to basically introduce that into the game, which I think is a great change. It's more realistic. With this update, we're adding some changes to how the different types of armor in ESO interact with various core combat mechanics like dodge roll, stealth sprinting, etc. These changes will not be to the skill line passes that you traditionally level up. Rather, they will be a part of the armor itself. We're adding this secondary level of armor mechanics so your choices for equipped gear have trade-offs and are no longer simply a matter of wearing gear for damage bonuses and other positive gains. We wanted the armor to have a feel and theme to each of them that supports the various playstyles you'd expect that armor to support. The bonuses will be listed in your light, medium, and heavy skill lines and are split up into 2 passives. These are not traditional passives and have similar functionality to the new champion stars that grant bonuses without the need to be slotted into the champion bar. The system features several bonuses where light and heavy are mirrors of each other, and medium armor offers its own set of unique bonuses. One example of this is how light and heavy armor interact with magical or martial damage, which is physical. Light armor will confer the following bonuses, penalties per piece of light armor worn. Reduce the damage taken from magical attacks by 1% per piece. So, if you're wearing light armor and you got 5 pieces, you get 5% damage mit from magica classes casting magica abilities. This includes damage types of flame, frost, shock, and magic, but increases damage taken from martial attacks by 1% per piece. This includes damage of types of disease, poison, bleed, and physical. So, you take more damage against people running mauls. And the thought process is you're in light armor, you're wearing robes, and somebody's coming at you with a big club. If you get hit by a club, you're going to take more damage than if you were wearing heavy armor. I think this all situationally makes sense. But the thought is light armor has this mystical aura around it and, damage mitigation through magic. Heavy armor will confer the following bonus penalties per piece of heavy armor worn, and it's going to be the exact opposite. Increase the damage taken from magical attacks by 1% per piece. Includes damage types of flame, frost, shock, and magic, but decreases the damage taken from physical attacks. It includes disease, poison, bleed, and physical. So if you're in a stamina meta where stamina is hitting a lot harder than magicka, it would benefit you more to run heavy than it would be to run light. If those roles were reversed, you run light armor instead of heavy armor. Now, these things do offset. So 1 piece of heavy, if you're wearing 1 piece of heavy and 1 piece of light, it's 0. You have the 1% and 1% on one and the 1% and 1% on the other. They offset each other. So something to keep in mind. These bonuses are per piece worn, and the functionality is meant to provide interesting trade-offs for wearing pieces of specific armor types, not simply providing more damage. We'll provide the full list of bonuses in tomorrow's patch notes, which, once again, I'll be posting tomorrow. Advanced stats. Lastly, we know certain stats are very important to know about, and other stats in the game appear to be hidden. While PC players have access to UI add-ons to display more in-depth stats, those add-ons are not available on all platforms. As such, we're adding a new advanced stats panel to your character sheet. This new panel shows more stats than ever before in the base UI, and also puts highly desired stats like spell, physical penetration, front, and center. This panel also displays percentage versus flat bonuses, so you can really fine-tune your characters. I think this is a great change, because oftentimes when I'm talking about builds, I talk about how I have a lot of penetration or other stats that aren't on the character sheet, and people just see the weapon damage. And they're like, oh, you only have 4,500 weapon damage. You're not going to kill anybody with that. And it's like, well, penetration is way more damage than most weapon damage modifiers. So yeah, I actually do hit a lot harder, but you can't see that, so I get it. We believe these changes to the champion system and armor in Update 29 will provide many years of rewarding character advancement and options going forward. Expandability of the new champion system opens up many new options for the future, in addition to a more performant game experience. We look forward to seeing your creative new armor builds in dungeons, trials, and PvP to account for the new bonuses. Thank you all for waiting patiently for this update, and we look forward to your feedback. We'll see you in Tamriel. So, that is the article. I watched the reveal today, and I'm not going to lie, I was excited. I was very excited to see these changes. They've been talking about a CP rework for a while. Blew me away with the thoughts gone into it and the effort gone into it and what it's going to entail. Now, I know, guys, that a lot of people are going to have questions after hearing what I just read. A lot of people are going to ask me about champion points. I more or less know what you know. I don't know any more right now. Tomorrow, I'm going to start to know more. I'm going to look at the PTS. I'm going to look at the patch notes. I'm going to go through the champion tree and start doing stuff like that. When I know more, I'll release more. But I can assure you guys, all the questions that you have now, you will have a lot less questions come release time. Whether it's through me, Alcast, all the other YouTube content creators. There's a lot of good content creators out there that are going to dive headfirst in this new champion rework, because this is a game-changing level system. This is a huge deal. And so everybody wants to know what this is. And so I'm going to do my best to get that information for you guys to get it out there. But yeah, I don't have it right now. So yeah, we got some exciting stuff. We have new content. I was listening to them, and they were like, one of the main questions I was asked was, does this mean my character is going to be physically weaker? And what they said is, you know, as you add CP in the current system, you get more stats. They baked that into just leveling up your character. So your character, they were saying, isn't really going to be weaker than what it currently is. So you'll be able to complete all content normal. I guess they have a hard mode trial team that does hard modes with no CP, and they're able to complete it. So what they're saying is it all can be done. It's just a way to branch things out and make stuff more yours. And, you know, if you guys have been watching this channel for a bit, you know that's something that I'm pretty excited about. I like the idea of making a character yours, branching out a character to really cater to your specific character's strengths and weaknesses. A roller, like dodge, rolling, stamina, Nightblade is going to play completely different than a sword and board stam DK, but our current CP is almost the same. There's very few differences between a lot of stamina classes and magicka classes, even though they perform so much differently, and that's because of options. You don't have many options to branch out, and that's what's going to happen. So I'll dive more into this, more in depth in future videos. If you guys want to see those, recommend subscribing to the channel. Like I said, that's going to be the next couple weeks. We got double AP, we got PTS, and yeah. Hopefully the PTS works right away and we can get on there and get some stuff tested and see the new gear sets. But yeah, when I know when I'll be streaming, I will post it on my channel on the community board. I will try to get that out in the next couple of days here. If you guys want to stay tuned to that, twitch.tv/istherenoonelse. Same thing as on YouTube. You can go over there and subscribe, and when I go live, you guys will know, and you can come in there and hang out and say hi, and can talk about the new champion system and all the other new stuff that's coming. But yes, very exciting stuff. Yeah, I'm going to end this video here. Wanted to hear your guys' thoughts. Thank you for watching, guys. Have a nice day.